In Parashat Mas'ei, the Torah ends up with a story of Bnot Zelophehad. Bnot Zelophehad, as we learn in Parashat Pinchas, came to Moshe Rabbeinu complaining that their family didn't get a part of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and ask him that he should give them also land in Eretz Yisrael because they don't have any boys. All the family members are girls. That's what they say. ותעמודנה לפני משה לפני אלעזר הכהן ולפני הנשיאים וכל העדה פתח אוהל מועד לאמור אבינו מת במדבר, a father died in the desert והוא לא היה בתוך הדעה נועדים על אדוני בעדת קורח כי בחטאו מת ובנים לא היו לו, he doesn't have any boys. למה יגרש? הם אבינו מתוך משפחתו כי אין לו בן. תנה לנו אחוזה בתוך אחי אבינו. We need a piece of land, whatever our father was supposed to get, in order that we should still have a name in that place of Eretz Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes to הקדוש ברוך הוא ויקרב משה את משפטם לפני אדוני, and הקדוש ברוך הוא says the correct. ואומר אדוני אל משה לאמור, כן בנות צלופחד דוברות. The correct, they're asking correctly, and therefore give them a piece of land. נתון תיתן להם אחוזת נחלה בתוך אחי אביהם ועברת את נחלת אביהן להן. That is in Parashat Pinchas. Afterwards, in Parashat Mas'ei, we see Bnot Zelophehad again. But over here, it's not that Bnot Zelophehad coming to complain to Moshe Rabbeinu, but rather their tribe is coming in front of Moshe Rabbeinu saying, 1 minute, you're giving a piece of land to those 5 girls, and they'll take that piece of land, and afterwards they'll get married to men from a different tribe, from a different shevet, and they'll have children, and the piece of land that they inherited right now will go to their husband and to their children, and we'll lose out as a tribe from those from our land, those 5 pieces of land that you gave those girls. ויקרבו ראשי האבות למשפחת בני גלעד, בן בכיר, בן מנשה, משפחות בני יוסף, וידברו לפני משה ולפני הנשיאים, ראשי האבות לפני ישראל, they coming and complaining, the following, ויאמרו, את אדוני ציווה אדוני לתת את הארץ בנחלה בגורל לפני ישראל, ואדוני צווה באדוני לתת את נחלת צלופחד, אחינו לבנותיו. You take the piece of land that Zelophehad is supposed to get, you give it to his daughters, and they'll share it between them. But the problem is, והיו לאחד מבני שבטי בני ישראל לנשים, those ladies will marry somebody from a different tribe, from a different shevet, נגרעה נחלתן מנחלת אבותינו. We lose out from our shevet that piece of land, it goes to a different shevet. ונגרעה נחלתן מנחלת אבותינו, נוסף על נחלת המטה אשר תהיה להם, ומגורל נחלתנו יגרע. So that is the complaint they're going to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, let me ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu goes and asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, comes back and he says the following. זה הדבר אשר ציווה אדוני לבנות צלופחד לאמור. This is the command that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to בנות צלופחד. לטוב בעיניהם תהיה לנשים. They can marry whoever they want, but only from their tribe. אך למשפחת מטה אביהן תהיה לנשים. And therefore, that's it, when they marry only from their shevet, לא תיסוף נחלה לבני ישראל ממטה אל מטה. So that generation, says the Gemara, they were not permitted to marry a different tribe. The next generation afterwards, already, they can marry, anybody who wants can marry from a different shevet. But in that generation, like Bnot Zelophehad, we're not allowed to marry from a different tribe in order so the shevet would not lose that piece of land. Good. So that's what happens over here. And really, that's exactly what Bnot Zelophehad did. ותהיינה מחלה, תרצה וחוגלה ומלכה ונועה, בנות צלופחד, those 5 daughters of Zelophehad, they married בני דודיהם לנשים. They married their cousins. Cousins from the same shevet, משפחות בני מנשה, בן יוסף, היו לנשים ותהיה נחלתן על מטה משפחת אביהם. Beautiful. And they lived happily ever after. They got married to their cousins, and all who was good, everybody's happy, everybody's satisfied. When I learned this parasha, I didn't understand. Those girls, Bnot Zelophehad, were very, very old. They were over the age of 40. They didn't get married yet. The reason is because Zelophehad, their father, died in the beginning of the journey of Am Yisrael in the desert. And they were going all these years until now, where they're about to enter the land of Israel. And the Gemara says, in Baba Batra ק"ט עמוד ב', תני רבי אליעזר בן יעקב, אפילו קטנה שבהם לא נישאת פחותה מ-40 שנה. Even the youngest daughter of Zelophehad didn't get married before the age of 40. So that means the youngest of the 5 girls were 40 and up, and the rest were even older than that. And they didn't get married up to now. They couldn't find a shidduch. You'll ask, why not? Rashi tells us that the reason is, נתעכבו עד 40 שנה. Why? The reason is, בשביל להינשא להגון כיוכבת שילדה אחר 40. Which means they wanted to marry a good boy. They looked for a good boy. They couldn't marry anybody. They wanted to marry somebody good. Therefore, they couldn't find a shidduch. It was a shidduch crisis. And all of a sudden, they're marrying their cousins now. And I didn't understand what's going on. Those 5 girls, they were older. And they had cousins about their age, maybe older than them. 5 boys, also weren't married yet. So how is it possible that nobody could have made that shidduch offer? 1 minute. There's 5 girls here that are older. 5 boys here that are older. Good girls, good boys. The cousins, it's next door. Nobody could have said, hello, let's make the shidduch between them. 5 and 5, perfect. What could be a better shidduch? Bnei Dodim, beautiful. How is that possible that nobody came up with such an offer? Secondly, I didn't understand. If one got married, the second got married, how did they all marry at once? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they all got married? They had such a hard time up to the age of 40, all of a sudden, at that age, one is 42, one is 45, one is 47, whatever ages, all of a sudden they all get married, v'tihena levnei dodem lenashim, all good, happily ever after. How did they all get married so quick? They had such a hard time in shidduchim. And the answer to this, I think, is one of the reasons of the shidduch crisis today in our communities, and that is the big selection. When a person goes out in shidduchim, a boy or girl, since he has such a big selection, he can't settle on anybody. He goes out with one girl, no, she's too tall, she's too short. She speaks too much, she speaks too little. She goes out with a boy, he's too frum, he's too modern, he's too this, he's too that. I don't like the family, I don't like the way he spoke, I don't like the way he drives, I don't like this, I don't like that. All kind of different reasons why not. What's the reason behind it? It's because they're always thinking, 1 minute, that's not the perfect one that I want. I'll try somebody else. Each one has in mind the perfect boy, the perfect girl that they're looking for. True, but it's very, very hard to find, if possible at all. So therefore, they're not willing to settle. What happened over here with Bnot Zelophehad is that they had up to now 12 tribes to choose from. They could marry anybody they want. They went on shidduchim, but they didn't like this one and that one. They became very picky. And not only that, the older person becomes, the smarter a person becomes, the harder in shidduchim it becomes. Why? Because he opens his eyes. He knows that's not what I want. He becomes a little bit wiser. Every shidduch that he goes with, he knows exactly now, is very much, he becomes a professional, why he doesn't want this and why he doesn't want that. And right away knows, oh, that's not the one I want, and that's not the one I want. The more shidduchim he goes with, the more picky he becomes. Unlike those that get married right away at age 18. They go out with the first one, you see they get married very quickly. Why? Because they're not smart enough to know. They see a boy, she sees a boy, he sees a girl, they get excited, they like the feeling that they got during the shidduch. The parents said it's a good family, it's a good boy, it's a good girl, and that's it, they go along with it, they get married, they live happily ever after. Sometimes not, but that's the way it was always throughout generations. Once they keep on going, another one, another one, another one, another one, it becomes harder and harder each time. Sometimes they say such a thing that each person needs to go out with a certain amount of boys, a certain amount of girls, and every time you go out, you knock another one. Eventually, if let's say you need to go out with 30, eventually you get to the 30, you'll marry that boy, that girl. Could be that the opposite is true. The more you're going out with, the harder you're making it for you, because you become more picky. Now you know, you went out with that kind already. That kind of boy that was extra frum, I met already 2 months ago, and I didn't want that one. Why should I go out with this one? Why should I like this one? So therefore, I knock this down. And so on and so forth. All that kinds of reasoning why a person becomes picky. And that's interesting that it comes out in the parasha like this, that Rashi tells us that we see that the names of Bnot Zelophehad are written differently in both places. In Parashat Pinchas, the order is Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milka, Tirza. In the Parashat Mas'ei, the order is different. It's Machla, Tirza, V'chagla, Milka, V'Noah, which means the order switched. Chazal wanted to know why, and they said in Baba Batra, Kuf Kaf, that the reason is, Kan Mna'an Lefi Gdulatan, Zu Bashanim, over here, that since they're getting married in Mas'eh, so it goes according to the age. The older got first married, so that's why the order over here is according to the age. And in Parashat Pinchas is lefi chokhmatam, is according to the wisdom, and therefore it's written over there in that order. Ends up Rashi and says, Magid sheshkulot zu kazu. He comes to tell us that all of them were equal. What does that mean, all of them are equal? You just told me that one is smarter than the other. One is more older than the other. How are they all equal? And that's first of all. Secondly, the Khatam Sofer asks a question, and this is an obvious question. In both lists, Machla is the first one. So if Machla is the first one, how could they all be equal? She always has both ma'alot, both advantages. She was older and she was smarter. So therefore, what does it mean they're all equal? And I wanted to say that that is all true, that one could be greater than the other in all other things except shidduchim. When it comes to shidduchim, the smarter a person becomes, the harder it is for him to find a shidduch, boy or girl. The older he becomes, the harder it is to find the shidduch, because it becomes much more picky, because of the age, because of the wisdom, becomes much more picky. So therefore, what it says over here, for the advantages, they were all equal. The Torah doesn't count their advantages. The Torah counts their disadvantages, because we're talking about shidduchim, the chokhmah, and the wisdom and the age. That's not an advantage in shidduchim. That's a disadvantage, because you get older, you become more picky, and it's harder for you to get married. So therefore, the Torah says over here, you should know that they were all equal, because the Torah doesn't say they're ma'alot at all. So they must be equal. That's why Machla is in both of them first, because we're not dealing over here with the ma'alot. We're dealing with the chesronot, because we're dealing with the parasha of shidduchim. When you're dealing with the parasha of shidduchim, one needs to know that very well, that you have to settle, you have to find. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu made for them a big thing. He told them, listen, you have to marry only from your tribe. Oh, from our tribe. So it was very easy to find a shidduch, because how many men were left not married after the age of 40? There are probably few, and therefore, all they had over here is their cousins. If it's their cousins, so that's the only choice, that's the only options, and we don't have any more 12 tribes, we have one tribe. There's probably 30 men left that are not married, over there, the age of 40. Let's get married with them and goodbye. They got married, they were happily ever after. Although they thought at the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said they have to marry only from their shevet. Oh, it's terrible. I couldn't find from 12 shvatim. Now I'm going to find from one shevet. How is it possible? When I had a large selection, I couldn't find. Now that I have a small selection, I will find. The truth is, they all got married right away. Why is that? Because when you take away the big selection, it's much easier to get married. That's why a good salesman, you go to a store, a good salesman knows you don't show the buyer, the customer, too many options. Once you show him too many options, you get him confused. He comes out of the store, he doesn't buy anything. He wants to ask his wife, he wants to think about it, he wants to compare it to other places. But if you come to the store, you have 2-3 options, that's it. Which one do you like? You convince him one, and that's good enough, and you go with that. And he buys it, and he's happy. Over here also, when talking about shidduchim, if you have too many options, you come into the world of shidduchim, and you can always find better. I try to find better. I'm trying to get the best that I can. It's very, very hard to find a shidduch. And the more you go out, the harder it becomes, because you become smarter, you become more picky. Therefore, one needs to know, you need to settle for something that is good. It's good, you don't let it go just because there's got to be something better out there.